Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Keith Charters. I'm several things. I'm here in my capacity primarily as MD of Strident Publishing, but in other lives, I'm also an author and the Industry Associate for Cultural Enterprise Office, particularly focusing on literature. You'll see here some of the books that we publish, fiction, mainly for young adults down to children of just started school, kind of 7+ sort of age group. And what I want to talk about today is style. I want to look at how style can launch a career, how it can generate coverage, but also style needs to be used carefully. And I want to talk about a particular example of style by focusing on this man, an author called Kirkland Caccioni, who is shy, retiring, dull and invisible, except that he's not any of those things. He's the exact opposite. He writes brilliantly satirical, quirky, eerie novels for the young adult market and has a turn of phrase like nobody else. And this is his first novel, Conjuring the Infinite. And we'll talk more about that shortly. What I will say is that when we designed the cover for this particular novel, we didn't know Kirkland very well. We hadn't been exposed to the cult that has become Kirkland. Because Kirkland has some very interesting clothing that he's partial to. The sort that attracts comment when he visits bookstores and schools and libraries. And the thing is that it's impossible not to see how people react to that clothing. And that's what we just didn't quite get to start with, how they would respond to it. I started to realize it was almost as if because he didn't take himself too seriously, other people did. They took him seriously almost despite himself. This is one of his particular favourite tops that he was wearing on the last day of a tour we did recently with him. And his distinctive sense of style even extends to him carrying this lunchbox everywhere that he goes. And I do mean everywhere that he goes. You sit down for a coffee in a cafe with him, this Kurt Cobain lunchbox suddenly appears as if from nowhere, and everybody notices it. And it's quite useful because as a marketing person, you're trying to find things to latch on to. So we decided to take the essence of Kirkland, which sounds a bit like the sort of thing you might be bottling and selling below or above a bank in Ireland, and reflect his personality in the cover of his new novel, which has the very snappy title, Endless Empress, A Mass Murderer's Guide to Dictatorship in the Fictional Nation of Enkedar. It's a very Kirkland title. So off we went and we started looking for inspiration, and this was one of the first things that caught my eye. It's by a Glasgow School of Art student called Ida Henrich, and it just had that kind of chaos to it that seemed to reflect Kirkland. So we started to build a cover around the blurb for the book. And I'll read you, we jokingly refer to this book as High School Massacre, the Musical, because that's kind of a shorthand for the blurb. But the blurb goes like this. When a group of teenage misfits create a daydream kingdom to escape their humdrum lives, they accidentally set in motion a chain of events that leads to lunacy and murder. A reporter plots revenge in a grubby cafe. A crazy teenager is being pressured to slay a monster. The world's worst poet writes the world's worst poem. A nurse stuffs her pocket full of potatoes. Dragons wait at the edge of time, while a unicorn waits by the bingo. And why is the bus always in the wrong lane? These strange events are all linked to the mysterious ruler of Enkedar. She's a genius, a goddess, a queen, and a murderer. She is the Endless Empress, and she is forever. So Ida read the book and was blown away with it and set about building some of these individual models that you can see here that were inspired by some of the key scenes. And then once she'd done that, she started to, because this is the way that she works, she started to build these models into a set and photograph this set. And it started to be the foundation of the cover that you'll see later on. And the finishing touch at the end of this was to add, of course, some dead bodies, because that's the kind of the whole point of this book in a way. But also, much more importantly, to add a potato. And why the potato? People kind of want potato, but that's the point. Is that it's sheer randomness of let's just throw a potato in there, because that again it reflects his personality. He just comes out with things. And before we knew we had a completed cover, and we like to think that this is the only cover in existence of a book that's not about potatoes, that has 2 potatoes on its book spine. So we've had a lot of fun, as you might imagine, working with Kirkland, who has an interesting range of hats. He was wearing this last Wednesday at Watterson's in Argyle Street. And everybody who walked in just kind of went, what? And we've indulged in a fair amount of creativity in this project, and as we've extended visual aspects of his personality into the cover. So the question is, I suppose, has it all been worthwhile, or have we been creatively self-indulgent? Well, so far, the signs are encouraging, because recently the debut that you saw earlier, part of the cover of earlier on, Conjuring the Infinite, it won the Catalyst Book Award and beat the Carnegie Medal winner in the process. Luckily, Kirkland has not let that win go to his head. And I have to say, this is probably one of the few times you will see a red carpet in Kilsyth. It's the Kilsyth Walk of Fame, or the North Lanarkshire Walk of Fame. So what's the moral of this story? Well, I think that creating style or a style for the sake of it is probably a waste of time. But building on an inherent style, something that you can see is already there, I think that can be fruitful, not to mention a lot of fun. So you can't fake style, but you can make the most of it. And I like to think of that as being creativity and profit in harmony, which is the way that business really ought to exist. Thank you very much. And that's what it actually looks like in the finished product.